the time, it's more important about how EDG win this rather than the fact that they do.
Well, we're into Champion Select in game number 2 between EDG and Saint, as the bans are already flying underway here. Poppy and Shen are going to be the first 2 bans that come out from EDG, as Saint banning out the LeBlanc and Vladimir.
So no surprise to see the LeBlanc be a continued staple ban. Saint should last ban that Malzahar from those last position.
As Brom is going to be the final ban coming out from EDG, so lots of respect coming out from the #1 team in the LPL. Normally they like to first pick that champion away, and Clearlove is going to get his Gragas banned out by Saint.
So kind of the gauntlet thrown. We did see that Auto pulled out their Aurelion Soul. Again, had some conversations with Last Shadow. It's been kind of seen as a soft answer, or at least some sort of counterplay matchup if you take Aurelion Soul into the Malzahar. So at least Saint think that they have some sort of answer here.
Well, they do pick up the Malzahar as the first pick for EDG. We should be seeing Pawn play that one in the mid lane.
Again, 6.14, so Malzahar has been love tapped slightly. His attack speed, his attack speed. His attack range has been decreased, as well as his movement speed. I think the movement speed is much more important to this nerf, because the big issue is his range and his ability to lock you down from pretty much, you know, Nexus tower at your tower. It's just pretty absurd.
Let's see if they can utilize that champion effectively here in this second match against Saint. And we are still waiting to see what Saints are going to be picking up as their next 2 picks. They lock in the Graves, which is one of Chiman's specialties for Saints roster. And we're going to have to see what Akon decides to pick up for his team. It's going to be Nami locked in for Shu.
Wow, big throwback. Shu is not really known. You can see the surprise on Pawn's face. I got Malzahar and he locked in Nami? Nice thing about Nami is that she does have long-range displacement ability, so she can interrupt that Malzahar ultimate if it doesn't lock her down, obviously with her ultimate as well as with her bubble. But Shu is not known as a Nami player. In fact, very few LPL supports are. They're much more about being that aggressive playmaker rather than playing more of a disengage-oriented champion.
When you look at big priority picks as well in the LPL, Nami and Graves don't kind of come to mind anymore, not unless you see lots of junglers being banned out. Which means EDG have the potential to pick up 2 more big power picks here, and they're going to go with the Maokai as their pickup for Mouse and Hecarim as their jungle of choice. Lots of pick potential from EDG already.
I think this forces XQ to look towards the Sivir automatically, because EDG's composition is screaming Sivir right now. The one thing that Malzahar lacks is his ability to get involved in team fights, which can be augmented by the On the Hunt. We already know of the damage potential and lockdown potential between Sivir, Maokai, and Hecarim. It was banned in the previous game. I think XQ has to take it away, or it's going to be a very easy power pick for EDG.
Let's see if XQ does lock that one in. He's hovering over the champion for now, as Talia is going to see some play here in game number 2 coming out for Otto, and XQ does take your advice. Frostcomb picks the Sivir away.
Very smart. Does mean that we have the potential to look for the Alistar Kalista combo from EDG. We've seen a lot of threads of Kalista. I really want to quickly touch on the Talia though. Like Aurelion Soul is going to interact very similar in kind of the theory about playing around Malzahar. You shove him in. Talia has one of the best initial shoves in the game, as well as her ability to make cross-map plays with her ultimate and outmaneuver Malzahar in the lane.
Well, let's see if we can do just that, as we are going to see that Kalista-Alistar combo coming out from EDG. Throughout Spring Split, Kalista was a big champion pickup for lots of teams, and now making a small resurgence in the LPL.
I am not a fan of Kalista, but I understand the theory behind it. So the issue with Kalista is her itemization. That's strictly what it comes down to, because again, you look at the things that were adjusted in the mid-season patch when Kalista really fell out of favor. You had vision adjustments, the blue trinkets getting weaker. You had higher priority on monster objectives because we had the dragon changes. Kalista excels in vision because she has it built into her kit on her W. Her rend obviously makes securing objectives beautiful, but the issue is the itemization into the Blade of the Rune King when you have all of these armor penetration, Black Cleaver, Duskblade builds running around. With the re-emergence of Alistar as kind of the top-tier pick in terms of LPL supports, I think it benefits Kalista a lot just because she works so beautifully with that champion, but I still think this is more of a comfort pick rather than a high-priority re-emergence of Kalista.
Well, let's see if they're going to be able to use the comfort of the Kalista on depth to their success in game 2 here as Saint. They round out their roster with Lissandra as their final pick of choice. Something we saw in the top lane yesterday for, I believe, Vici. Long played that one. And now we're going to be seeing Acorn pick up the champion again.
I mean, he's not going to have too much of a favorable matchup against Maokai. Maokai's there to effectively neutralize, but it makes itemization for this Maokai incredibly easy because now you have double AP in Lissandra and Talia, so I think that's a bit of a missed opportunity for Acorn. Frankly, reads a bit awkward to me, but you have great lockdown and the ability to make cross-map plays because there's a ton of mobility between Talia and Lissandra.
Let's see if Saint can make those cross-map plays against EDG in game number 2 as we head onto Summoner's Rift for the second time tonight. Spoke a little bit too soon there, Frostgrin, as we are on to Summoner's Rift.
We're definitely on the Rift, Fish. We've made it.
For game number 2 between EDG and Saint. And once again, a few interesting choices of champions are going to be picked up by Saint here, whereas EDG, stock standard EDG style pickup, a very nice team comfort the way they like to play the game.
Stock standard in the case that Deft and Mako are known on a global and international scale for their Kalista Alistar combo. Raz said it best, we're starting to see threads of Kalista reappearing in the LPL. Again, I don't necessarily think this is the comeback for Kalista. I can see why she can be valued for her objective control and priority with that Rend, but I feel like her itemization is still such an issue, and it's very important for Kalista to get ahead of the clock on her itemization, for her to be pretty relevant in that mid-game and late-game scenario against the likes of other AD carries. So very important for EDG to be paying attention to Deft and Mako.
As we take a look at the Keystone Masteries very quickly here, that's a lot of Thunderlords being picked up by Saint. Reminds me of when Keystone Masteries were first introduced, and there were 10 Thunderlords across Summoner's Rift.
Oh, those were the days, the overtuned Thunderlords. Still looks like it's pretty powerful. This time around, we will be having standard lanes. Should be noted that EDG, again, I suspect that it's going to be a lot of attention and action paid to that bottom lane, but it doesn't necessarily have to be immediately. Clearlove picking up this Hecarim. Typically, Hecarim is recognized as more of a farm-heavy jungler. Likewise, a lot of Saint's lanes have the pushing power against EDG, so eyes will be on Chimin to see if he can isolate a 1v1 matchup against Clearlove, keep track on him, and make sure that he can't get this Kalista Alistar snowballed.
So now we can actually already see Chimin being rather aggressive, but in the bottom lane, they're going aggressive on over towards XQ. Ignite already being burnt. Lots of spears being thrown into the support as well. They forced the summoner spells out of the ADK, but Deft now in a little bit of trouble. Has to heal and flash away, but Shield going to get the last auto attack down. And Saint, they pick up first blood on towards EDG's bottom lane.
EDG, Deft, and Mako think that they can go aggressive, think that they can get the cheeky level 1. Kalista has such a strong level 1 and level 2 with that Rend available to her, but the problem is that they chased into an oncoming creep wave, so going too aggressive and are rightfully punished. Great play from XQ and Shu.
You mentioned, you know, Sivir. Kalista really needs to get those items quite early here, especially against the Sivir, and this is going to be, it's going to set him back a little bit.
Breaks down like this. Even if Sivir doesn't get advantage in this lane, like if things just go neutral, Mako, hello, he's fine, maybe not. If this lane just goes neutral, Sivir will win out late game. She's going to do more damage, she's going to do more AoE damage, and that's the big problem that I have with Kalista right now. You need to make sure that she gets the advantage and she gets ahead of that Sivir, and she's pretty much there to secure the objectives and to play janitorial cleanup duty.
But now though, Saint already put themselves on the scoreboard fairly early into this match with that big blunder in the bottom lane. They've given themselves a nice 800 gold lead over EDG. Is up on the top side of the map. Started doing fairly well against Mouse in terms of CS as well. About a wave up over the Maokai.
Yep, speaking of neutralizing lanes, that's pretty much all Maokai does. He just survives things. So all eyes on Clearlove now to kind of turn the luck of his team, because so far it's been a bit of a disaster everywhere. Definitely will have kill pressure in his lanes, though, post level 6 in the Malzahar as well as the Kalista Alistar lane.
As for now, we actually still see Akon being a little bit of a bully here on over towards Mouse, forces him to head back to base as the creep wave moves closer and closer towards Lyssandra's turret. Pawn also not having a great laning phase so far, as he's about 8 CS behind Otto. So lanes are winning for Saint at the moment. They're now 1,000 gold up. Yeah,
he could possibly get some attention though. Because the wave is being held by XQ and Shu, it forced Def to make a preemptive back, and you actually saw Mako making his way with Clearlove, as he's now on your screen, towards Pawn's lane. Although now that the wave has reset, you could see EDG, they want to do something together.
For now, their XQ is just constantly shoving this wave on over towards Deft and Mako's turret. He's about 10 CS up ahead of this Kalista. Deft will be able to farm up whatever he can possibly here. There's still a level behind the Sivir as well.
They're fine now. Sit back, farm it out. Right now on XQ's back, Deft's not in a terrible position, has 2 daggers to his name, so still very strong. So the matchup hasn't spiraled completely out of control yet. Especially because Nami got the kill.
Mid lane is going exactly as how we expected it to. Otto is slowly pushing Pawn in towards his turret.
And this is what it should be. It should be that Sivir and Talia will push, and it will open up space for Chimin to invade Clearlove's jungle, to either get a gank opportunity on this bottom lane, which again, double teleport. Malzahar, Pawn cannot join if they pull the trigger on this.
Well, he's snuck in behind EDG. They have to be a little bit careful. Still waiting very patiently. They don't know that he's here just yet.
They don't have flashes, so it's really all on Shu to make sure he hits a nice bubble.
Let's see if they can, as Mako actually goes very aggressive on over towards XQ. Def now in trouble as he gets exhausted. Chimin flashes in. Gonna be able to pick up a kill on towards Def, and XQ lives the initial trade.
And EDG's bot lane is not playing with respect for how aggressive and early they burnt their summoner spells in this lane. Even Otto making a roam down the river to see if he was needed down there.
And already a very good start, unexpectedly coming out from Saint. They're now 2,000 gold up.
Our criticism of Saint has never been in their ability to play the lane phase. Again, this is a roster that's pretty much made entirely of old school veteran players, be that from the LCK or the LPL. They know how to play the lanes. They were once all kind of revered for their ability and their potential in the league. They just kind of fell out of favor.
Clearlove now is going to find Chimin waiting for him inside of his brush. We'll just quickly quick draw over the wall, but he's actually ghosting for this one. Smokescreen going to stop it for a while. Chimin not successful in using his ultimate to get over the wall there. But still will live to tell the tales. Pawn now going to lock him down with the ultimate. He just runs straight into that one. No ultimate available for Clearlove, but EDG, they think they've got him covered, but they just back out and he lives to tell the tale.
What a disaster. Not only Chimin failing to get over the wall, but also walking into the Malzahar ultimate. Thankfully, like you said, he does walk out unscathed, but kind of a mismanagement from cooldowns across the board on both teams.
Both teams actually fumbling that one quite heavily. It's now Otto rock surfing a little bit, trying to go up towards the top side of the map with his ultimate. Mouse going to get locked down. Does have his flash to get over the wall if he needs to. The wall's actually not even that long, but gets shoved back into his team. Clearlove's up here, though. Saint got to be careful. Akon takes a lot of damage, going to get taken down. Meanwhile, Otto is able to chuck a couple of pebbles over towards Mouse and take him down, but the head grip's not done yet. Flashes forward. Otto will be able to get away from the charge coming out. It's still a 1-for-1 trade.
1-for-1 trade. Best case scenario right there. Chimin, unfortunately, is too low health that he can't trade for the dragon, but he will take Clearlove's red buff in response.
We'll get a little bit of health back from the initial smite, as well as the regeneration he'll get from this red buff. We'll have to see if he does stick around, if he goes back to base immediately after.
Should be noted, and is very important, that both top laners are refusing to expend their teleports. So even though we had a lot of action up there, there's still global presence for a play on the bottom side of the map for both teams.
Otto, meanwhile, in the mid lane, although he used his ultimate to get towards the top side of the map, still has his, did use his teleport, sorry, to get back into his lane. So one teleport is down for Saints at the moment. And ZDG now resorting to farming down on the bottom side of the map.
I always like to point this out because we have initial backs for both teams right now. Malzahar went for the CDR boot rush.
Okay.
And I actually really like this on Malzahar. I've talked about this before with you, Fish. Malzahar, his Q is a flat cooldown, and I think the Ionian boots versus the penetration boots are more important on him simply because he's so dependent on his flash and his ghost. Again, the one thing that Malzahar really struggles with is getting himself in position to make use of his long-range ult cast. So I like the priority there just because the 10% reduction on the summoner spells, you can't itemize it on any other item in the game, and it's so potent and important for his combo.
It certainly is, and we're going to be able to see if Pon can make the most out of that. One does have blue buff available, so now trying to match the push that Otto has in this bottom lane. Chimin looking like he wanted to make his way up towards the top side of the map. Did get spotted out by the pink ward that was placed down by Mouse, and there is a pink ward as well inside of Saint's Tri-Brush. So he'll just come up to the top side of the map and try and go for a lane brush instead.
Graves, one of the few champions in tandem with Lysandra that can burst out this Maokai through the duration of her frozen tomb. So I like the fact that Chimin is recognizing that there's a lot of kill threat and power in this top lane.
This pawn actually going to be able to lock down Otto here. Clearlove going to be able to charge him backwards and use the ultimate. A simple, clean pick comes out from EDG.
And the importance there is for how long Clearlove was able to keep Talia locked down on Malzahar's W.
As now, Mouse actually in a bit of trouble as Chimin was looking for the dive. Ultimate being burnt by Lysandra, but he claps his hands and tanks up all of the damage, and Chimin's not able to take him down.
Does mean that EDG across map are able to clean up that blue buff, so massive swing of power for Pawn here. And EDG, you know, they're kind of losing control over their side lanes, but they're in full control for this Malzahar versus Talia 1v1.
Certainly are, but still Saint to lead with a 2,000 gold lead after the initial shenanigans in the bottom lane.
Is that what we're going to call it? Shenanigans?
It most definitely seemed like it.
They flashed into an incoming creep wave at level 1 and 2 and died.
Shenanigans.
Chimin's about to get caught up by shenanigans. Here comes Malzahar.
Does get the smite down, so he's able to take the wolf, but let's see if he can get anything else done. Here comes the Talia, will run straight into the Malzahar. They do take down Clearlove to start things off. Chimin in a little bit of trouble as Malefic Visions will spread on over towards Otto. The aggressive Voidlings are hunting him down, getting lots of damage down as well, and a double kill will come out from Pawn.
And we talked about how this is already a point of weakness for Saint in their mid lane. They were winning the side lanes, but now this is just exasperated further, and it's starting to leak over into other matchups, including the jungle. If Chimin's going to continue to be that aggressive, disaster for Saint. Malzahar is now 3-0.
You know, I never really saw it before. Not Pawn, Spawn likes to tell me that this Malzahar skin that Pawn is using is the most terrifying skin in the game.
His Voidlings are absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, so I never saw it. I thought they were, you know, pretty cute little snowball things. Well, that's actually pretty scary when they're chasing you across Summoner's Rift.
It's like a Carpenter movie, like The It. Or no, excuse me, The Thing. That's what it looks like.
Oh boy, the thing of nightmares coming up from that Malzahar there, but EDG do pull it back. It's now 4-4 in terms of kills in this game at the moment, and then slowly that goal lead is shrinking for Saints as well. So EDG have stopped the bleeding, and are trying to heal the wounds now as well.
It's about to be over this dragon fight. They do not have the breakpoints and itemization to contest that so freely, which is why EDG are, you know, Chimin, you want to start this? Let's go. I mean, look at the difference between the 80 carries. The fact that XQ early itemized into boots and only had his pickaxe. He's just now bought his BF sword, but that's the power spike that they needed for Chimin to be so aggressive and forward and starting that dragon.
So XQ actually looking towards his Infinity Edge as the first item on Sivir here, not opting to go for the Essence Reaver. We've seen this a couple of times now. It's
kind of been the new norm and trend. I think it was started by SMLZ in the LPL, although hold on, we've got some play. Nope, diffused by a ward.
Running around mid lane.
I almost expected them to dive it. Mako has level 6,
well, not
now level
surprised.
7.
But yeah, SMLZ was one of the few AD carries that did start with that Infinity Edge on Sivir.
I was asked today why I like the LPL so much, and I think the idea that I thought it was going to be a dive pretty much encapsulates it. It's just, it's the essence of volatile, violent, and aggressive play.
Don't worry, it's not just you. Everyone I've been casting with you know, once in a while just pause me like, yep, that's a fight. I'm like, where'd the fight come from?
You see when we watch the NALCS and they have the ability to flash over a wall to chase down a kill, and when LPL crew watch it, we all tense up because we're waiting for the flash. It never comes. Like, man, if that was Imp, he'd be underneath their second tower. Dragon does go down, however, for Saint, so picking up the Ocean Dragon, the RNG is not in their favor for these two games so far.
Seems like a recurring trend from yesterday to today. Must be me and you, Frosker, sitting here casting these matches, putting all the Ocean Dragons on the Rift.
Unlucky, but we will have a bit of an engagement. Can they get out in time?
Well, they're going to try to. XQ used the Spell Shield early and on the hunt to run away to safety, so good disengage from Saint.
It's just constantly, though, EDG looking at Saint and just making eyes, and you see the respect and the fear drilled into this team, you know, using that ultimate to get them around that corner as Alistair's just waiting to step.
There's been a little bit of a lull in the game since the early engagements between EDG and Saint. Saint still do have that goal lead as well as the Dragon, so good objective control from the previous LSPL lineup.
And again, it was smart to pull the trigger on the objective after XQ had made his purchase. It had the item advantage over Deft. That said, it's still very scary anytime this Malzahar is involved for Saint, just because they do not have the advantage here.
Still in the mid lane, Otto is controlling these creep waves pretty well. He's even on CS with Pawn at the moment. Up on the top side of the map, a 20 CS deficit in favor of Acorn against Mouse on his Maokai.
This is to be expected, but EDG, they want to make a play bottom simply because they're refusing to expend Mouse's teleport top to clean up those creeps. You see Clearlove and Mako just getting restless. They've been spotted out by a lot of vision, so Saint will have a counter maneuver here.
Almost feels like Saint expect this with Acorn doing the exact same thing, holding onto his teleport this entire match. Otto's been using it to get back to lane whenever he absolutely needs to, but now is holding onto his teleport as well, making sure he's available if there's going to be that cross-map play. As EDG looking to try and contest for this blue buff. It's running out of patience. Seismic Shove gets it back in over towards their jungler, and Chimin picks up the smite as there's a deep teleport coming out from Acorn. Ultimate will come out from the mid laner as well, as now Chimin's being locked out. Cluelove goes in. Mako picks up that first kill, but suddenly there's a Lissandra in the back lines, locks down Cluelove. Mouse is trying to do what he can to keep Deft alive, but he's going to get ultimate and taken down by Shu. Now he's in trouble. The poor old tree is going to get chopped down by the boomerang blade. Oh, he is able to twist it and advance away, but Shu picks up the double kill there, and a good flank comes out from Saint.
In the end, though, it is a 2 versus 3 scenario, so Saint coming out on top, but hold on.
Might not be just that yet, as XQ can get pulverized here by Mako. On the hunt comes out, and oh no, just looks like it's going to be a 3-for-3 trade between EDG and Saint.
It might turn into more, though, here because here comes Otto.
He's going to try and slow down Mako. Seismic shoves the Alistar straight back into the rocks, and Saint come out on top.
So Otto makes up for XQ's overzealous positioning by looking for that greedy farm bottom. In the end, Saint do win the team fight, and really on the back of the fact that A, EDG used way too many cooldowns on one member of Saint, Chimin, that Graves there. I think they used about 3 different ultimates. And B, Otto, fantastic positioning.
Well, it's not done yet. Otto going to get locked out by another ultimate coming out from Malzahar, and Def picks up the kill.
Caster's Curse, as I say, fantastic positioning. He's like right in the middle of my lane. Opens up his catalog. What's on the shoe sale today? Need some sweet Pumas?
That's twice in 2 days, Frosker, and someone did it yesterday on a Siva.
It was Mystic. It must be a buy one, get one free special in the shop today for the LPL, because this is absurd. Just back up.
He's making bank at the moment with all the purchases he's getting from everyone. They're trying to buy things before they're even in the shop. Didn't know you could do online shopping in Summoner's Rift.
To be fair, it actually closes now when you take damage. So he gets to watch in slow motion the poor choices that he made.
I feel like I would just be confused as to what's happening. Like, where'd my shop go? Press P again, try and buy more things.
You know, when I used to watch Otto stream, he would be doing like 3 things at once. He'd be playing like a super mechanically intensive champion like Orianna or something, and he'd be ordering food and ordering like shoes or something. 4 things at once. He'd kill his enemy later. He'd die in the 1v1, immediately close his tab, go back to ordering food. So he's used to that.
Old habits die hard, apparently, for Saint's mid laner. As it's still 8-8 in terms of kills. Surprisingly, Saint still ahead in terms of gold here. 2,500 gold up. Their early game has been phenomenal. We kind of see them have this from time to time. It's really mid to late game where we start to see Saint kind of fall off and where EDG really get to shine as well.
And uncharacteristically, EDG also kind of picked themselves into weaker matchups. But as I say that, here comes Clear Love.
Let's see if they can get the gank over towards Akon. He goes in for this one. A teleport's going to be coming out from the mid laner. Akon so far able to defuse this gank quite nicely. Otto going to try and shove the Maokai back into his team, but Pawn's now on the top side of the map. He's used his ghost as well. Everyone wants blood here. Otto tries to jump away on his wall, but gets knocked out of it by the tree. Pawn picks up a kill. Meanwhile, bottom lane, somehow they've taken a 3-on-2. This time it's EDG that come out on top. XQ and she'll even have to be a little bit careful with the red buff on Deft now.
Disaster for Saint. They should not be losing this. Is he going to pull it for the slow and get Mako in position? Nope.
Doesn't seem like he goes for it.
They also have the Fate's Call. It's been so long since I've had to say that ultimate. Callista, welcome back.
I was actually waiting for the name of that as well. Thank you very much. But now
Def
got to be a little bit careful here. The bubble will come out. Does not connect smartly. Just keeps moving up. There's that Fate's Call. Frosker and then looking for the fight. Throws the Alisar in. He's an angry cow. It's XQ now getting jumped on. The exhaust onto Def might keep him alive, but he's able to rip the threads out and takes him down.
Oh, but barely survives. The cannon creep not turning in time.
XQ. I mean, Shu is a hungry man today on this Nami. He's 3-0-3. He's looking to try and take down Mako. Going to be able to slow him down. Deft is waiting the wings. Just okay. A good flash forward comes out from Mako. Throws the spears into him and picks up the kill.
Okay, Shu. Learn your lesson. What happened to EDG at level 1? They chased into an oncoming creep wave and died to minion aggro. Chased into oncoming creep wave. Mako just waited for his cooldowns, turned around, punched you in the face.
Died to minion aggro. Unfortunate story for Saints bottom lane there. And with those hectic cross-map plays, you know, top side of the map going in EDG's favor, bottom side going in Saints in EDG's favor as well. As we take a look at top side, Akon did get taken down there while we were checking out what was happening in the bottom side of the map. So it's a delayed ace from EDG there that just came out. They're now 13-8. And they're also up in terms of gold, now looking to try and take down this Mountain Dragon.
It's a very different story from Game 1, however. This is not EDG outplaying Saint across the map. Yes, they're still doing a good job, especially as they secure their mountain objective. But this is more so EDG making a statement that we are better players, and even in a 2v3 scenario on bottom side, we're going to outplay you, we're going to kill you, and we're going to embarrass you.
We've been doing that so far. It's now gold dead even between the two teams, but EDG definitely looking a lot stronger as we approach the late game of this match.
I mean, this looked really rough for them early, but now Deft, right on track, has his Blade of the Ruined King, as well as looking towards that Hurricane.
Almost done.
And Pawn, kind of the big standout member on this Malzahar, getting this priority pick. We said that, you know, Saint, they showed the Aurelian Soul, so they might have an answer to it. They thought that Talia would be good enough.
Let's see if they can get this gank on over towards Mouse on the top side of the map. They're going to be chasing down. He goes for the clap. Meanwhile, bottom lane, Otto getting lots of spears thrown in towards him. The seismic shove doesn't knock Def backwards, and Cluelup's going to charge on towards him. The tree is somehow still alive on the top side of the map. Tries to lock down Chimid, who chucks an ultimate into his face. Saint do get the pick on the top side of the map.
But in the end, EDG will be able to rotate this into an objective by taking that tower, whereas Saint do not have the creep wave on the top side of the map. So overall, better move for EDG. In response, Saint looking at Baron, this is risky.
Let's see if they can get this one taken down. They're trying to do as much damage as they possibly can. In fact, XQ's the one that tanks that one up. Pawn is moving on over towards the pit to see if he can stop this. The ward will actually spot him out. Saint are committing to this. Baron is down to about 3,500 health. Pawn's now in the pit. They're going to have to back out immediately. Saint immediately run away. Thank you for the leash, says Clearlovers. Now he wants to be the one that takes one down. Headbutt away from Mako, gets Chimin out of the fight. Baron's down to 800 health. Smite comes out for the heck room, and they even lock down Chimin over the wall. Saint are the nicest friends to EDG there, helping them get the Baron buff.
Oh no, Otto.
He's going to just roam straight into a Maokai and a cow as well, locking him down. The heck room charges on forwards. It's a farmhouse right here, and Talia just can't keep them all in the barn.
From bad to worse for Saint, they've got the EDG have the Baron now, and they're pushing up to a timed creep wave through mid. This is at least 2 turrets.
And looking to just continue pushing here. The Baron buff gives it over towards EDG. Means they can just push on through. They've got 2 picks and 4 members strong pushing into this mid lane. Heckram's going to be able to join them in just a bit. Now looking on over towards the inhibitor. Inhibitor turret's going to fall shortly after, getting lots of good damage on towards this objective. The Inhibitor will be the next target as well. There's nothing Saint can do to defend this. As I say that, though, they do look for the flank with Acorn. Has to be a little bit careful. Otto is not up and alive just yet. They lock him down. Clearlove picks up that kill. The exit frag comes out for EDG.
And Acorn doesn't even get an opportunity to use his ultimate. Just immediately died through the duration of the CC. This is a massive swing of power for EDG. They were trailing in their gold for the entirety of the game and now have swung very far in the lead.
And you know what, Frosco, and you sure right, is actually pretty embarrassing the way that this has played out for Saint.
And it's just the slight difference about where to make plays and where EDG know that they can make plays. They go bottom because they have the creep wave. They know that it's the objective that we want. If we get the kills, it's just a bonus. Saint, they just want the kills. The objective isn't prepped. They get desperate. They turn on Baron, and EDG punish them.
It was looking really good for Saint to start off as well. You know, great plays bottom lane. Even though the kills were even out eventually by EDG, they were still the ones that were in the lead and controlling the objectives. But it's just all fallen apart, and now EDG firmly in the driver's seat with 6,500 gold up ahead of Saint. Looking to continue their push. Already taken now one inhibitor turret. The top lane inner turret's the last inner turret that stands. No, I lie. It's the bottom lane inner turret as well. So big objectives for them to take.
The wave isn't as nicely prepped in the bottom side as it is for the top side. Want to point out this ward. We've seen this becoming more and more common in the LPL. I think it's a very cute defensive ward that...
Here comes X. Hugh is threatening and engaged. They go on top of Mouse. He's the tankiest member of the team. They're trying to keep himself alive. He's still alive and kicking, but that's a big ultimate coming out from Mako. And Clearlove follows up. Saint just fall and gets swatted down like flies as EDG clean house and pick up the ace.
And that's going to be the game for EDG. They're surely just going to push this one down the mid game, and that is the power of the Kalista Alistar, and that is why EDG are starting to pick this one back up.
And after a disastrous start to this game, EDG, they're able to pull it back. They're able to fight back. It might have been a little bit scrappy to start, but it looks beautiful to watch at the end as they take down Saints Nexus and pick up the series 2-0.
I mean, effectively, this is the age-old saying, you give them an inch and they take a mile. EDG just took the whole hand there.
My goodness, it was a disaster struck for Saints. Gifting over Baron, a big pulverized combo coming out from Mako as well. It just seems like once EDG got in gear, there was no turning back, and they just wiped the floor with Saints.
You can't give them anything because they will expand on those victories so heavily.
And certainly, well, Saints, you know, unfortunately, we're not able to pick up the win here. It was a clinical game for EDG in Game 1. They looked a lot stronger in the early game, especially in game number 2.
A lot of credit to Chimin for that.
And, you know, that's kind of what they need to take from this match. You know, they did well early game. How can they capitalize on that? Because they do have the promotion and relegation tournament coming up, and they will really need to fight to try and keep themselves in the LPL as well.
But a very well-deserved bow for EDG here. We said that this was an expected outcome from them. Again, we expect EDG to be able to 2-0 Snake, but how they win is very important. I really want to highlight Pawn. I think he played beautifully in Game 1 on his Twisted Fate, got the Malzahar in Game 2, and showed that it was well worth to give him such a strong priority pick.
It certainly was, but you know, coming back to the mistakes they made in the bottom lane against Saint in that game too, that's something that they can't afford to do, especially against top-tier teams like RNG, because that's how they lost their game against RNG, I believe.
I definitely think there was a lot of cockiness there. Again, they do know the power very intimately for the Kalista Alistar lane, just kind of overestimated the incoming creep wave, didn't necessarily respect their opponent. I doubt that EDG would be so careless in a high-pressure situation, so I think you need to take that one with a grain of salt because it was Saint, already a game down that they were looking across.
And certainly were. EDG were able to pick up that game, and like you mentioned, Pawn had a really good performance. You know, picked up MVP in game number 1 there, is definitely a contender for MVP in game number 2 as well. We have to see if he does pick that one up, but there was still a few big plays coming out from Mako, coming out from Clearlove at the end of that match. He looks very solid in the mid lane for the team and was definitely doing a lot of the heavy lifting.
That's the best thing to take away from this series right now is to see how they're integrating Pawn and what his form looks like coming back into the LPL and coming back into his starting position. Again, they've been rotating back and forth between Pawn and Scout, Pawn kind of peeking his head back in, but it's really nice to see him hit the ground running, get priority picks, be able to carry with him as well as his old school legacy picks like that Twisted Fate, and more importantly, that he's a power point for EDG, that it's no longer just about their bot lane and getting depth ahead, and more importantly, that he's working really well with Mouse.
Exactly was, and Mouse was a big factor in that match as well. I mean, first game on the Gangplank, fantastic. Proved that he could play a very carry-oriented champion and played it very well. Second game of the Maokai went back into a tank and did the exact same job as a facilitator and played the role fantastically.
Yep. Again, we saw the Gangplank ban against EDG, and we expected that it was actually against Pawn when he was back on the roster, but it has been Mouse as kind of the primary benefactor of that champion or primary target there. So getting a chance to see him pick up that champion and show us why it is so heavily banned against EDG. And it comes back to this idea that it doesn't matter how many bans you throw at that team. The beauty and the strength of EDG and why they're the most consistent team in the LPL right now is the fact that you can't ban them out, that they can play everything.
Well, let's take a look at the MVP for that game. It's going to go over towards Mako on his Alistar. And you know what? After that last play, I honestly don't blame them.
And Rusty asked yesterday, what does it take for support to get on the MVP? Well, apparently you just have to put the entire team on your back and carry with some massive 5-man pulverizes. Yep. And Mako did so beautifully.
It can't be 2 picks, unfortunately, 0. Your bar does not qualify for getting the 2 most crucial people in the team locked out. You have to hit all 5 people like you did in this fight.
Yeah, the CC chain here between the Pulverize as well as the Fates call was just beautifully executed. Again, we talked about why is Kalista showing back up for EDG, and it's because this is so practiced. That is gnarly.
What can you say? That's just Mako doing Mako things there. I mean, the combo worked out fantastically. EDG, of course, were already up at that point in the game, but still big plays coming out for them throughout the mid to late game of that match, barring the interesting early game that happened between the 2 teams.
And it's so funny when you think about the history between Kalista and Deft. Before, Deft had actually gone on record saying that he didn't really like playing Kalista, that it was a very awkward champion for him. It took him a long time to get used to. He debuted it in 2015 MSI against their Fnatic opponent when they dismantled Fnatic. And since then, it's kind of been a love story of just the Kalista-Alistar combo has now become kind of a staple and a patented go-back for EDG. So it's nice to see them continue to thrive on this champion.
And it really feels like it fits in what they're trying to do throughout the later stages of the LPL here, moving in towards playoffs, you know, really refining the team and trying to find where they fit in the LPL and how they're going to progress moving into the playoffs as well. The
important word, refinement. Again, I completely agree with you and Rusty yesterday that this late into the LPL, it's about working out all of the kinks. Normally we look down on teams making this late of a roster swap, you know, moving from Scout into Pawn, but it looks like Pawn's been there since the beginning and he hasn't missed a beat since taking a leave of absence due to injuries, working beautifully and so much development and refinement out of Mouse as well. So this iteration of EDG looks the strongest that we've ever seen this team.
They certainly do. Unfortunately, their opponents today, Saint, they've got a lot of refining to do as they look towards the promotion relegation tournament. It really seems like their mid-game to late game is something they really need to clean up as well. I
definitely think it's about curbing that aggression. Again, they looked great in their individual 1v1, 2v2 matchups in terms of the lanes. You know, Shu and XQ getting the kill lead on EDG. Likewise, Otto trying to be that playmaking mid laner, especially against the likes of Pawn. You know, if that works out for them, they can very easily snowball from there. Chimin was in great position, so there's a lot of good things to take from Saints' look at EDG. It's just now about cleaning up that execution and making sure that you're more consistent on it. Acorn's always been a stable backbone. Chimin looks to be like a stronger upgrade in the jungle. Otto is superior to Snoopy in every way in terms of mechanics, and XQ and Shu look great.
And they have been playing around with their style quite a lot as well to try and find how they fit in uniquely as a team in the LPL. You know, we see lots of Poppy from Akon. We see now Aurelion, so on Talia in the mid lane as well. So it's good to see that they're experimenting with different things.
I don't necessarily think they have an identity yet, and I think that's one of the big problems for Saint is that they just rely kind of win lane, win game mentality a little bit too much. But they definitely are kind of a bit of a gimmick team, and that they might catch an unprepared team on the back foot with picks like Aurelion Sol, as well as that Poppy making a return on 6.14.
And one of those teams that's going to be very difficult to do against would be someone like EDG, who showed today, you know, they can fall behind, but they're still going to fight back nice and strong. It's not an easy task to take them down.
That said, but it does work against teams like Invictus Gaming, who are also having roster issues, as Saint were able to pull a map there. So they can still play Blue Shell, you know, mix up the standings, especially because it's still a close race for that 4th place spot into the playoffs. So not all hope is dead for Saint, and they got a kick-ass logo, so...
Oh, I knew that was going to come out somewhere there.
You got it.
Well, speaking of Invictus Gaming, we're going to be seeing them play next. I believe that's going to be against Game Talents, and that's going to be a big game for them to see if they have. I'm not even sure if they even have any chance of moving in towards playoffs. So they're a little bit far behind Game Talents and Newbie, I believe.
It's more so a question of who is actually strong in this group. The biggest issue between Newbie and Game Talents is inconsistency, and we don't actually know where they rank up.
We'll have to see that match that's coming up next year, but here's a few highlights from that best-of-3 series between Saint and EDG. EDG did pick up a very quick 2-0 here today. They fumbled the early game in Game 2 a little bit, but were able to fight back and bounce back quite strong.
So we say that, and it's true, they did fumble the initial level 1, but they still closed this game out in 25 minutes. So the early game didn't go that wrong.
Yep. The early game for EDG Saint went wrong between the two teams, as this was a... they got a little bit of help from Saint, you could say, to get this Baron.
It was an auspicious call from Saint. You know, they didn't have the wave. They couldn't make a play top. They got desperate. They went for the Baron, and unfortunately, Pawn just walked up and...
Otto also wanders into the jungler's like, hey guys,
I'm here. I think he was still shopping. I tell you, I used to watch his stream religiously.
He was getting some food, but he was not prepared for this one. I don't think he was shopping at this point in the game where a big Alistar just gets thrown into your entire team for a double 5-man knockup.
If that doesn't make the Penta, I'm going to be very disappointed because that was disgusting.
And certainly was. Mako played those team fights fantastically. So did the rest of EDG, picking up that win over Saint. Dominant again, you know, they're the top team in the LPL. They look unstoppable. No team has taken them down. The only team that's come even remotely close would be someone like RNG picking up one of those games in decisive faction, but that wasn't even enough.
And it goes back to the idea that EDG are chasing perfection. It's not just good enough to win. It's about making a statement in your victories.
They certainly are, but like we said, we still have 2 more games coming up later on tonight. It's going to be Atlas and Raz that take you through those matches. So Roscoe and I, we're going to be taking that first match here today, so we'll see you guys in 10 minutes for the next match.